Mr. Speaker.
The gentleman shall show, Mr. Toscano.
Mr. Speaker, I'd like to speak to the measure.
Gentleman has floor.
Mr. Speaker, ladies and gentlemen of the House, on the face of this, all it says is reduce funding for Comprehensive Services Act. So it's just a budget reduction on the face of it. But you have to look deeper because it is much more than that. This is a big policy change, and it's a big policy change that has not had sufficient debate either in committee, through a bill, or on the floor. Why is it a big policy change? Well, it's always very dangerous on the floor to look at the law, but I'm going to quote from the Virginia Code. Be ready to go to sleep. Section 2.2-5211 says, the General Assembly and the governing body of each county and city shall annually appropriate such sums of money as shall be sufficient to provide special education funds and foster care services for children identified. That's section 2.2-5211. But then we also have section 63.2-410. The General Assembly and the governing body of each county and city shall appropriate such funds, sums as may be sufficient to provide those who are identified at risk. Notice the words, some sufficient. It doesn't say anything about a cap. That's what this amendment does. It provides a cap on state funding for kids who are in foster care, for kids who have special education needs, for kids who might be abused and neglected. So when the state money runs out, there is no state money to help those kids. What's the implication of that? Well, potentially it's a huge implication for your locality because it creates a large unfunded mandate on your locality. The cap applies to the state money. It does not apply to the locality. So under the Virginia Code, the locality has to come up with the money. Now, you may have gotten some information from the first cities indicating that cities will bear this impact. But I submit to you that those of you who represent rural districts better be very concerned about this, because those of you who represent those districts know that in many cases, almost the entire budget of a social services department can be taken up by one or two kids who have very severe emotional needs that require therapeutic foster home or some residential placement that is very, very expensive. So what we're going to do with this is we're going to create this unfunded mandate on localities and potentially provide a disincentive for social services departments to take kids into care when they really need it, when they're really abused and neglected. So I'd ask the body to reject the amendment, not allow the cap to be imposed. If you want to come back next year and have the debate about caps and some sufficient, as the delegate from Scott says, get your own bill. But let it not be this bill. I hope you'll reject the amendment.
Shall the bill be amended in accordance with the governor's recommendation? Clerk will close the roll.